again. That was really good for them.
Look at the priority. Now the biggest question is going to be whether anyone's legend put faith in the Zeri for Betty again and try and get that bottom lane without the Lulu. Or if they want to take away the Xayah, but it feels like anyone's legend, they know the direction they want to go. At least in a hyper carry, regardless if it's Zeri or the Jinx, which has been popping up. Yeah.
Oh, come on. That would have been so fun. That would have been such a nice, like, historical beat to kind of shout about Betty. Betty on Jinx in the elden days of the Flash Wolves. Now, with the Zeri, you don't necessarily have to put up with the Lulu. In fact, in some ways, you have stronger lanes versus Rakan, which I assume is going to be matched up with the Xayah immediately here. I don't see why you wouldn't lock in. I mean, I know that they played the Aphelios Rakan in game 1, but with Xayah on the table, that's a bit of a no-brainer, especially against already a diving threat of that Wukong. But they're just choosing to go with the Aphelios. Tell me what's new, I missed it.
That person in the crowd just got up. They're obviously leaving. They're just like, forget it, same bottom lanes. Who cares? You know, Zhao versus Wukong. Okay, that's now our Vi versus Wukong. Hey, Nymera, there's no Lulu. Nautilus, Leona. Okay, not going to see the support this time around. Instead, see ZDZ on Jax, which is his 10th game. That's also not a surprise.
No, that was not a surprise. For me, it is a surprise that TT are going away from, you know, like Xayah Rakan just slammed that home with most teams across the world right now in most regions. But Huanfeng on the Aphelios, it kind of allows you to be halfway between carry and utility. Maybe if you do lock in something like an Akali again, or Ucal, which doesn't really have that same utility, the Aphelios with something like a Gravitum and Infernum kind of flying over the top of a team fight can give TT a bit more comfort in the way that they play out these games. But for me, that's just a little strange. Just Xayah Rakan's so strong in the meta, but they've got their own interpretation of it. Gonna lock that one in. Now they get to remove some laning threats from themselves as well. They're removing the Renata. I'd imagine you remove the Nautilus as well. Zeri's been pretty good with that.
We'll have to see though what happens through the rest of the lane. So I'm looking at solo lanes because again they're banning out things to give ZDZ a lot of comfort here. But for Hoya, who again last game really wasn't the greatest performance, he's played quite a lot of different champions too, but it's the Cassante then everything else, right? 10 games on Cassante, yes. Then we move to things like Sion, Renekton, both of which are available. You know, even the Gwen is there if they want more ability power damage in a solo lane. But up against this Jax, is it really the best idea? Because so far, he's gotten some of his comforts taken off the board while anyone's legend. You were talking about some of the engage. This would be single target pick here that they want to add, which is still, you know, technically a flex between SwordArt and Pins for the last pick.
And this has been, this was unpicked or banned in game 1, which is very strange for the LPL. We really have high priority on the Annie. It's one of the strongest mid-jungle picks on the patch. And that, of course, could go over to the side of Pingzi. Not played a game of it themselves. SwordArt, of course, has played more of that on the side of anyone's legend. He's played 4 games. It would be the 5th for him if he were to pick this one up. TT, they have their solo lanes to lock in. It's going to be the Gragas into the Jax. That was one of kind of the initial nullifying picks into the Jax in the top side. That was even before like the Rod of Ages changes. I'm seeing these hovers by Yaya. I'm seeing them and I'm vibing with them. I like them a lot. Not sure they're that good, but I would love to see Ucal pop up on something a bit more flashy in that mid lane.
I mean, with Zhao and Gragas, a really old school matchup as Aurelion Sol.
There we go.
Come back to this. I mean, thinking that mid's going to be pretty simple, but either way, there's an option for anyone's legend to flex their muscles here and give a really hard mid lane. Aurelion Sol blind, essentially to mid, is very
such
dangerous.
An ego pick, but it works.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an ego pick in a lot of ways because you're sat there going like, yeah, Aurelion Sol is not really a champion for the first few levels of the game. And if you're playing into a pick mid laner, like the Ahri, which is going to be locked in for Ping Z, if you sit there and you just channel your Q, it just means that you're putting yourself in quite vulnerable spots. And whenever you press W, of course, you go on that kind of charted flight path. Makes it very easy to kind of spot you out with those skill shots. Of course, you can cancel those things early. It just adds an extra degree of difficulty in avoiding those sorts of engages. Now, the thing about this kind of team combo is if you escape that combo and you escape the early game as this Aurelion Sol, you're into what is a very short-range composition from AL. Because if you're not going to get picked off by Ping Z, this Aurelion Sol is going to scale up to infinity. The Wukong is going to struggle to reach. Onto the rift we go for game 2. We already kind of sat down and told you what was going to happen with Ucal on this Aurelion Sol. Very strong pick if they outrange you. Very hard to get onto that champion before he gets a huge ultimate down and starts to reset across team fights. He's kind of like a resetting Cassiopeia. The way that I've started referring to him is like the Zeri of the mid lane. We've chatted about Zeri already quite a lot about this series in that game one, because feels like has so much late game scaling, but has the reset potential to get that mobility to match something like that Zeri hopping over walls, finding someone isolated, caught out. So track what can happen with that one. So it's actually very important on the other side that you have Xiaohao and Pinsy doing a good job to shut down that Aurelion Sol. They do have the pick combo. There's also an Ahri, which I will, of course, be talking about a number of times this game. I would potentially like to see a higher burst build coming out of that Ahri, because you can reset as well in that mid lane, and killing off the first target gives you an awful lot of power. They're already starting early, trying to set things up for success.
It's a charm start as well. Betty's coming up, Ucal. They're trying to burn him down, and guess what? They've succeeded. He's going to start this lane off super low. He either burns all his pots and stays, or he TP's back. But either way, that's really good timing from SwordArt.
Very much so, and it doesn't really cost you much, right? Because you were already going to win the level 1 as the Ahri. Aurelion Sol now loses, 400 HP, so Pinsy, of course, starting with the charm, can walk beyond the minions and potentially threaten. Needs to be careful that Beichuan doesn't make a cheeky level 2, level 3 trip into that mid lane, so you can't necessarily leverage that advantage as much as you would like, but Pinsy, see what he can do with that couple of 100 HP advantage in the mid lane.
Meanwhile, down the bottom lane, SwordArt does come to lane without the stun. Worth mentioning that Xiaohao was able to abuse him quite a bit. Gleaming Quill start here, so with that, with Severin, Huanfeng just going to take next to no damage, but anyone's legend do hit 2 first. Shortly after, TT are able to match, so still aggression there as Pinsy just going to drop a ward. He's not roaming that early, guys. Simmer down. But I will say, Ucal, at least with Biscuits in his lane, he's able to survive.
That was the old Aurelion Sol thing. Level 2 roam towards bot side, made famous by Huhi at MSI back in the day, 2016. Betty does have flash, of course. I need to use it. Does.
You're getting burned. Here's that's worth it for TT. No AD carry for the summoner. That's pretty nice here. Again, for TT.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Particularly when you have flash on the Xinliu still. Means that he can still get into that play, start bursting people out. Beichuan trying to alleviate some of this pressure. Flash is forward a bit.
Flash for that. Charm, though, is perfect, but it still gets the flash from Pinsy. Mission successful in 2 lanes by TT.
So Beichuan has now used that flash as well. It just is trying to alleviate something in this mid lane. Pinsy, of course, has to teleport to reset his lane should he want to. This is actually something which, he put down that ward in the pixel brush down in River. This is why we typically see that ward actually just outside the jungle entrance instead, rather in that river, because it means you can spot Beichuan kind of heading between his own jungle entrances at that point. It would have spotted out that gank. That is not the case in this one. So the ward placement actually costing the Ahri the flash in the mid lane.
And takes some of the vision of the pixel brush around the area as well. So it gives you a bit of versatility. Like you pulled up that ward as a fellow mid lane player. It feels like something that has saved my life more often than not. As
so
anyone's legend mid, they're going to lose that flash regardless. Now it is unsealed spellbook, so worth having a look to see what Pinsy replaces. As Huanfeng, meanwhile, going to take a bit of a back end of a trade, but still anyone's legend, still taking damage himself.
So in this game, in terms of the spellbook thing, so that actually fits into the entire game plan. You should realistically be going for the Ignite first switch. You go to Dark Seal in your first back, you're looking to get a kill with your first ult and Ignite of the game, particularly because that matches up when Aurelion Sol is at his weakest. You're trying to make a play somewhere around the map, and you know that you are the more powerful mid laner. And after that point, that's when you can start really starting to snowball between the Wukong and the Ahri. We know how much damage the Wukong can do when ahead as a team fighting champion. Of course, Ahri, we've seen less people build damage on that champion, much to my displeasure. ZDC, there's a flash on Gragas. That's potentially dangerous here.
Much better start. Hoya last game he was doing pretty well in the start of the lane, but apart from that, it all kind of fell off. But this is an aggressive start. ZDZ has to back off, and Hoya's going to use this opportunity as well after a denied minion wave for this Jack.
It's like I'm saying, he's a little bit chunky, it's Gragas, but whatever he's doing in the gym, it's working for him. It allows him to out-muscle Muscle Man Jax up here. Gets him back in that early lane. And actually, interesting thing, we were talking about those wards in the pixel brush. Pinsy has actually done a really good job of getting deep vision into that bot side jungle. You can see a ward just behind the red buff, just inside the raptor pit as well. So Beichuan not going to have nearly as easy access towards that mid lane, again, especially without flash. Seeing the first backs of the game come in for mid lane as well. Pinsy shoving an extra wave in, has the minion dematerializers. Not actually sure whether he's used it on range creeps or whether he's used it on the cannons. Sometimes you can use them on the cannons for a very quick one-wave push, but you can start clearing minions from level 7 if you do put them all on the ranged ones. Because he's finally going to get his first back in the game in.
That's a good note. We'll see that last one where it's placed as TT, speaking of placement. Beichuan here going to be dodging away from the lens, or at least at the very least. Beichuan is outside of the range of Xiaohao to find this little engage. This was done to Beichuan last game, sitting in that brush. I guess he's just repeating the play from Xiaohao that netted the first blood.
So, AL, with the vision kind of in the last few minutes allows
that
him to... That's a bit of it. Yep.
And that ulti missed as well. Hoya's spacing great. Explosive cast does separate the minions, but as they come back in, barrel roll not going to connect. Waiting for the body slam. Leap strike was used. Counter strike following through as well. ZDZ going to be alive for now, but again, he's got no mana, a low health bar.
He just used teleport.
There's a lot of wave clear.
And he's just used that teleport. So he's going to lose himself a full wave under that tower. It took a heavy trade just before this. Force him back. Almost lost his life. Going to lose a full plate in the Gragas matchup. We know that Gragas was one of the original anti-Jax matchups across the world. Not like the LPL. Preferred taking a couple of skill matchups in regards to kind of like fighter versus fighter, and now they've both brought out the cannons as well, but they're very proficient in Gragas here as well. Just asked 369 about that one. ZDZ gonna go even further down in that CS department. At least has Merc Treads now to try and get himself onto the board. Kingsley heading down towards this dragon where Xiaohao has switched over to that Ignite. Doesn't have a Dark Seal for any kind of stacking snowball potential, but does have a lot of mana in inventory because he does of course have the Lost Chapter to help him push and roam.
72 to 58. Note the difference in mid lane as you talked about. Waiting for that Ignite to come through. It has actually shown its face here from Pinzi who teleported before. No Dark Seal though. At the very least, I also mentioned that flash has come back up after Pinzi was punished earlier by Beichuan, so makes it a little bit more scary for someone like Ucal, who is now dismissing that lane for the time being. This is a big roam. ZDZ about to meet with Beichuan. Win becomes Lightning Connect, and it's a 3-talon strike to find the knockup. But ZDZ holds on to the counter-strike, and Beichuan just backs away, looks for a quick trade, and it's simply about the lane, it seems, here for TT.
ZDZ is in such a bad spot, though. He's sat here with wave states going completely against him on multiple occasions, taking hard trades on the weak side of the map while his wave is pushing away from him. That's kind of death for a melee solo laner most of the time. Ucal was even hovering in that top river at the same time. It wasn't like Xiaohao and Pingzi were headed towards that point. Now they're headed towards top river, but this feels like it's a minute or so too late because Beichuan actually going to be able to potentially secure this.
Waiting for the eye to come through, but Pinzi with the Spirit Rush just might find the jungler. He flashes late. What was that? Eye exposed. Hoya gets it. Hoya just got the Herald, and now anyone's legend want to find him as a response, but this Aurelion Sol ain't going to do too much. Hoya by himself, a barrel roll good, but it's a flash from ZDZ. Ucal, that was a dangerous flight path, but Herald can't be picked up. ZDZ is like, why won't that eye go to me? Hoya somehow took it.
Oh, man. And, you know, I'm going to have to get on the pedestal a little bit more again. This is the one fight that every Ahri wants in the game. Xiao who had a game like this recently on Weibo. Imagine if you have a Dark Seal here. Each stack gives you an extra 4 AP. 2 extra kills there would give you up to those, you know, 4 stacks total. Like, you're already getting to the point where that would have been a huge snowball fight. Because he goes for the Lost Chapter. For me, this is a lost opportunity. You need to be at a point in this game where your Wukong and your Ahri are blowing up the carries. This is a good fight. It is a needed fight. And Pinzi mechanically plays as well. He dashes into a point to get this charm. Awesome. But you're not making your life easier as this game goes on. It's that momentary like decision-making points in actually itemization, which could actually be a big factor getting later into this game because you've not actually managed to give yourself the best snowballing opportunity.
Boy, at the end of it, getting destroyed as well. I was just surprised that Xiaohao forces the flash. SwordArt can't get him in response. But that was a lightning crash from Betty. You saw in the bottom of your screen. Both supports now burnt their flash as well. As the 10 CS lead is rearing its head as we come into that replay as well. Note towards mid, things looking pretty even with the wave being pushed up against Pinzi. You brought up the point of the Dark Seal. It's now been picked up a little bit late.
After the fight. It's after the fight, Hysterics. And he's going for the Everfrost, which is, at that point, when you got the Jax and the Wukong top side, like, I don't necessarily mind it, but what that means is that you want to be diving into melee range of a Xin Zhao and Aurelion Sol and the Gragas, which in my eyes is a little bit dangerous. I think maybe you could have gone towards a bit more higher damage for yourself. Either of the other kind of damaging AP Mythics and Leandros the Ludens could have their place in this game. But Pingzi, now he needs to look for another big snowball fight. Anyone's Legend need to look for another big snowballing fight, and that will be around when the first big ultimate of the game from Aurelion Sol is in place. So AL need to be very careful about the next time they look for it. That'll be a big moment to see if TT can get back on the board.
Meanwhile, top lane Observer again obsessed up here. Good reason. Counter-Strike going to come through. There's Body Slam, Barrel Roll. Hoya has ulti and ZDZ's just out. This is his dominance. A much better look from last game. As speaking of looking, that's what AL are doing here in the bottom side. SwordArt, no stun. Tivers is up and available, but Xiaohao is Rakan, and that's just too dangerous here as they won't pull the trigger, but they will give information over to TT with Xiaohao getting spotted out.
Huge amount of wards being put down by Xiaohao and SwordArt in the bot side jungle, though. So look at those red wards down towards that quadrant. With Dragon spawning in a minute, those will still be, I believe they'll still be around. I don't think they'll be timing out by that point. I think it was just put in that last kind of walk through the enemy jungle. So TT, they're likely looking at 2 dragons going against them. They don't have the vision control to fight for that one. Beichuan will be recalling this top side, making sure that Hoya can settle that wave in just fine. Xiaohao going to go towards his Krugs. Hoya's going to spot that one out, so maybe that gives TT some extra chance to look towards a setup towards bot side.
Well, again, information has just been good so far. I like that you brought up the ward coverage from AL, the deep transition to control wards, but they will be spotted out by TT. Cleared out, and 20 seconds before this dragon, TT will be able to make AL a little bit more blind as Betty should be popping in here. Grab the under turret. Betty, super greedy. The flash forward though, Huanfeng unable to get the range. Xiaohao doesn't have flash, but the quickness.
Ignite.
Give him the sickness, baby. All it takes is one summoner. He's going to get him under turret. Xiaohao stayed for a gleaming quill, but will not die because of it. And TT getting the AD carry right before Dragon is an absolute no-no for AL to start it.
It's been a long time since I've seen one of the dubstep ignites. You're just going to walk forward and go, how do you deal with me now? Betty instantly cleanses it, which means that he has to stay a little bit further. But the thing is though, TT, through this kind of play, they've actually managed to get themselves a good angle towards bot side.
But the 3 talent strike not going to be used as Beichuan was caught out. Explosive cast separates him. Ucal now chasing. Xiaohao on his lonesome Pinsies used the last Spirit Rush to get out, but Huanfeng's here with a Gravitum available with Crescendum. He's okay. The Charm
no.
as well. Big Bomber! You give yourself a double over to the Dragon. Let's go, Dovahkiin! Ucal has launched this game into submission.
Oh, and now the game looks so different. You had the Rylai's already onto Ucal, who now walks away from this fight with 2 kills. And for all the early pressure which AL put out, the early snowballing they potentially could have had around that Herald and that fight, the 2 kills they had on their Ahri, that is not in the conversation now. Ucal is online. And a lot of this comes from AL. They didn't use their vision on bot side well. They didn't look for the play in the correct kind of timing. Their snowball play is just not quite precise enough to make things work against TT. And around the first big fight of the game for Aurelion Sol, didn't even need the empowered ult. Gets a huge amount of gold for himself back, and they get to stop the early dragon stacking.
That was just a falling star. Nothing more, nothing less. Rylai's lost chapter. I mean, he's set up to succeed. And look, we were talking about Pinzi with that double kill start. Now we've got one for the Aurelion Sols. We look again. A lot utilized here, Nymera, to kill Beichuan, who negated a lot of the damage thanks to Hoya.
This is exactly why I didn't necessarily like the Everfrost pickup for the Ahri as well. Dives into melee range of so many picks and has to go deep. Flashes forward looking for something.
What?
But when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. Ucal is delivering some nightmares on the other side, as suddenly this conversation again has become so different. Hey, hell, I'm not saying that there is a timer on their composition, but they wanted to snowball, and now it's starting to snowball against them in the other direction.
Did you see Hoya starts pressing back, and Gragas puts his hands on his lapel, you know,
I didn't actually see that. No, that's great.
And he's like, yeah, that is good. As now for Hoya, charms up. That's not good. My German is what is bad.
Mein Deutsch is nicht so gut. That's the one sentence I've learned since I moved to Berlin. That one tends to get through a lot of places. Luckily in Berlin, a lot of places do speak English, so I can get away with that one. Ucal, though, he knows he's on the strong side of the map now. He can start flying forward with impunity. Betsy, even though he's picked up this area again, had actually a fairly significant game on that, despite the loss in game 1. Sent out an awful lot for them to split. But he's now stuck on weak side. Huanfeng's getting way more farm, got more experience, has more items as it stands right now too. And the AL AD carry is sat there going, what do I do now? Where do I go?
Well, free play time. Again, Oktoberfest Gragas. Looking for the blast cone here, and anyone's legend just wouldn't let him get it.
No, CC, lots of CC put into each other back to back. So at least that is going to be another kill over the Ahri. We said that the importance of the snowball quite important this game, and the, well, I mean, that's Ahri, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, no, flash
didn't flash for that. That was SwordArt who burned the summoner here. Ucal is now just on a tear. He's everywhere on the map, but he just won't stop.
He's got the Rylai's, which means that these extended chase downs become so difficult as well. See, if that extra CC had landed from Xiaohao, of course, they had the Skies Descend as well, so the empowered ultimate held in the background. It doesn't even matter if TT get these kills. The fact that they're removing the flash from the Annie is already fairly big in itself. That's a playmaking tool from anyone's legend. Down and taken away from them. They're already struggling to now kind of find those clean plays. You can see what happened around that last dragon. They thought that they had to overforce into it without all the tools available for the next fight, particularly that anti-flash being down. You can definitely picture that one happening again.
You can indeed, but let's be real. Look, for AL, and they're not... It's not like they're losing horribly in this game. It's not like they're losing at all. Goldie is actually dead even, and they have a dragon too. A couple of those summoners might hurt them, but still scaling up this Zeri yet again. Pinzi is still fed 3-1. And TT have to be careful. Look at this angle. Huanfeng, he's looking for his boys to come through, but Ucal, is he going to be able to find Pinzi? A charm, good to interrupt that astral flight. In fact, Ucal now has to back off. Just Xiaohao rears his head with SwordArt on the side. They're going for the mid-turret. They will find this with the help of a couple of minions. And TT push AL back to find an opening to expand that mid lane.
Oh, SwordArt doesn't have any follow-up here. You can't really do anything with this. The angle was interesting. Maybe they could have looked for something if they could have positioned a little more aggressively. Pingzi had the spell, but Ghost ends up, as we said, kind of punishing the Aurelion Sol's kind of very telegraphed movement when he goes into a W, when he starts channeling the Q. They spot him heading towards bot side. He has this stun up again. They're just kind of heading in towards that big old, not quite grab field though.
He's going to use the astral flight under the turret, hang on, into two people. He's just spitting that breath of light, and suddenly the skies descend. TT Ucal finds a bit of damage, but the rest aren't here yet. Meanwhile, cameraman goes back to Dovahkiin. Pinzi is going to run for his life while Beichuan now adds some fire to the flame, and Betty's stuck under here. He escapes over the wall, but TT find themselves yet another in front of the face of a 30-second dragon timer.
Again, AL, they're looking for fights around this period of the game. If they're not ahead beyond this point, things get that much worse. Hoya just holding CDC in this lane after this point. This Jax is not going to be a factor in the same way in other Jax games. The LPL, when they take fighter into fighter matchups into the Jax, yeah, sometimes an extra kill can kind of send the Jax into like absolute crazy mode. Gonna go back into replay to finally see what happens with a good old Dragonborn towards that bot side. Saw that ultimate, and with the stun gone from SwordArt, Ucal just has such an extra amount of power to bring here. As soon as that reset and the W comes through, you've got that kill, you have to start backing off. AL, once again, finding themselves in awful position.
And remember that for Ucal, every time he takes away, you know, gets the execute, or we get a champion hit here with that Breath of Light, or a Singularity as well, you have to remember, Nymera, that's another piece of his passive, his Cosmic Creator. He gets more Astral Flight. Yeah. Breath of Light does more popping. I think Singularity gets bigger as well, and the execute goes up slightly. Like, every single time he finds these trades, these kills, Ucal gets that much bigger and that much of a nuisance where the mobility goes up. And he's now at the point where he's getting to places before Pinzi is.
You know that a singularity is what's at the center of a black hole? It's where everything kind of kind of like collapses into an infinite point of gravity stuff. It's pretty funky with that. Making a large one could lead to a supermassive black hole.
Oh yeah.
Which is at the center of most galaxies. Those ones are pretty fun. It's actually how a lot of galaxies kind of keep their shape. It's one of the ways that they kind of get to that point. And being the big Star Forger himself, very much fitting with Ucal. And he's also the center of this game now, because all of this game will be how much can you upset Ucal in terms of how his positioning will have to look like in these fights. He's gone for the earlier power in something like the Rylai's instead of going for something like a Rod of Ages, heading towards what looks to be a Leandri second. So it's not going to have like the Rod of Ages stacking potential in that sense, but the early HP and the early damage has of course helped him in these fights so far.
Love the casual flex of What is that?
I have a physics degree. I need to talk about this at some point in my life.
Physics?
I spent all my time doing it.
Did you specialize in astrophysics, or is it just
I did
something
two modules. I did two modules. So I did like 2 introductory modules, and I thought, actually, you know what? This is actually really hard maths. I don't want to do that anymore.
There's
this one thing called the lame-endem equation, which I looked at one thing. I saw Greek letters I'd never seen before, and I thought, this might be a bit much, folks. And I stopped there. But hey, I know enough to like casually mention it in conversation.
It just sounds like you're saying lame ender or something and just dissing
I know,
on
that's
Ender,
what we called it as well. Okay, not the lame ender. No, he's a great guy. I like him. But,
okay. At the very
yeah.
least, casual flex around, you know, it's impressive. At the very least, look,
I'm glad someone appreciates it. Someone has to. Like I said, I've spent all that time doing it. I'm glad it gets used somehow. See what we get to talk about with Rare Atom later. Yeah, that's why I've been doing that the whole split. So we've got one last chance for them in spring. They're waiting later, of course, to see how they will affect the playoff standings and bring it back to, of course, this one. If TT were to 2-0 today, does again give them not just the matchup versus RNG, but it also gives them the side selection. They'll hop over them. They'll finish in, I believe, 8th place if they finish this series 2-0. As it stands, though, do need to cleanly finish this one off. They're in a good spot in this game. Even gold does not tell the story of this game. They're a team which feels, if they're even, particularly... Observer's trying to bait us in there. But yeah, if this team is even, especially since AL wanted to be snowballing around this mid jungle, they feel much better in this game than the gold suggests.
is he caught out? There's going to be a leap strike coming soon. Has Betty to jump to, and there's the ult from Huanfeng. He has grabbing him too, but counter-strike hits him a little bit early on the trigger from Huanfeng, means he can't get the root down, and just trying to look for a pick before this next dragon comes up in about 1:30.
You know, I actually didn't realize that's how the Gravitum ult actually worked. It makes sense now, because the way that Aphelios works with the Moonlight Vigil is that you fire out the projectile, and everyone it hits gets basically a follow-up auto-attack directed towards them. It's why, but it kind of has some special effects sometimes. So with like your Calibrum, the rifle, it applies the mark, which happens normally when you hit your Q. With Gravitum, because it's an auto, it just applies the Gravitum mark. So if you're counter-striking, you don't get hit by the potential mark for that root. Beichuan going to get found out on his recall, but not going to get punished from that.
Well, CT still look around. NZ trying the same. Good charm connection is what I would say if it actually connected, but Beichuan narrowly missing it. It's about a minute to go before the dragon comes up. This will be soul point for TT. Baron sitting there staring them in the face. Oh, yeah.
See, you played Charmy Spoony before. That's not a charm.
Yeah. Oh, God. Again, as we gear up for this one, all I can say is that Ucal, once again, has the skies descend. And he's got Leandris now as well. So,
yep,
2 out of Aurelion Sol with a fully stacked tier.
Yeah, see what happens when a mid laner actually builds damage. Crazy what will happen with that one. On the other side, you've got Merc Treads over on Xingzi and the Everfrost. Should definitely cut down his damage potential outside of the fact that Aurelion Sol just does more damage as a champion. See what he can do with that big old ult. He is spiking at this moment in time. Aurelion Sol obviously scales as the game goes on, but these two items, like we said, is not that Rod of Ages. What can they do in this fight? AL looking for a big engage. If they can't reach that Aurelion Sol, they'll lose the fight.
They're trying AL, trying for Hoya. Xiaohao's going to come on down, but if he uses Cyclone, he won't have for the fight. Hoya been alive for it. Meanwhile, SwordArt, explosive cast, sends Xiaohao towards him, but Hoya goes golden. Look at how much time he's wasted as Ucal, you said, is flying in. Once again, the singularity is there. And taken down for the execute. Ucal, here it comes!
Oh!
Ucal now flying once more, and all he has to do is breathe on them. TT giving a double over to their jungler, and Betty now trying to carry this one, but meanwhile Pinsy is chased up. Ignite going down, and he goes down at the end of the minions. We get a bit yakety saxy Betty. Once again, the hope for anyone's legend, it feels like. Beichuan flashes, audacious charge. And Betty survives. The hopeful Huanfeng's like, screw this, I want to go home.
He's just on a side quest, thinks, yeah guys, you can continue the main story. We're gonna go take this tower in that mid lane. See what we can do with that one. Betty's being held at arms, like, they know that. Oh, he gets even tagged by the, when it becomes lightning.
Oh, he's dead. He's dead. Okay, well, there's Dragon sitting there staring you at the base with an open inhibitor now. From Huanfeng pushing, all's well that ends well, is probably what TT would say.
Yeah, again, now they're actually ahead in gold. They pick themselves up a lot of extra gold from that one. Huanfeng was just doing other things with his life. He had some chores to do in this mid lane. Brief bit of demolition while that fight kind of erupted towards the bot side. This is, again, one of the big reasons why the Gragas is very important in this game. We've talked about the Gragas in terms of the laning matchup, but in terms of the team fights too. very short-range composition from the majority of anyone's Legend. While you do have a Zeri that can dance around the fight, the Gragas cast has such a huge value in putting people into the place of the fight you want them to be. Just kind of funneling people into and away from your carries as the situation kind of demanded at that point. Ucal, I'm not going to lie, I think he just saw the potential of a pentakill in his eyes and like, hey, I really want to reset this. Instead of going for, you know, like the Zeri, which is actually going to be the big threat. Goes forward, gives a kill over to Big Z. Ucal, we'll call that a happy moment.
Yeah, we have to, because again, just felt it a little bit. He's got 3 items now off the back of it as well, so Lifeline Shield coming through. He's looking for his level 16. He does not have the Sky's Descent again, of course, he's already used it, so Falling Star sits there, clears the wave, but won't walk into anyone's Legends trap around this Baron. 16 still not there. Ucal needs about a couple of more minions worth at this point in the game. But will he die before it?
Seen here.
He is indeed. Cyclone comes through, left on his lonesome, and when Aurelion Sol's in a corner, what can he do? Anyone's Legend with a beautiful pick before this Baron. Hey, Sol's now down.
Exactly how anyone's Legend want that combo to work. They've really struggled to play around these side lanes, really struggled to get, you know, Xiaohao onto that first target as well. Things though, despite you know, not necessarily having the cleanest game after that Herald fight, is still 5-2, still heading up towards 2.5 items, and that is enough to threaten Ucal, who immediately picked up a stopwatch to stop that from happening again. AL, sadly for them, not actually able to get a huge amount after that kill. It is just a kill and not that. It's not going to be a Dragon, it's not going to be a huge blown out fight after that point, or a Baron. Beichuan's even going to stick around, pushing up this top side. You can see without the ultimate now, needs to be a little bit afraid. Not going to go anywhere.
Holding his gun somewhat, somehow. But still, I mean, that's what anyone's Legend can do. It's exciting prospect considering that this team, last game, were shut out a little bit and all of a sudden weren't in contention. Now here, they're going to be TP'd on ZDZ, yeah. Ucal not in this perfect spot though. The Flash Drain Master at Arms. Ucal in trouble. Everfrost there. His ulti doesn't do much. Ucal has just come in to die. That looks like Parthenax more than the Dragonborn. As anyone's Legend have Hoya against the wall. Double kill to the solo laners. TT are just throwing it away.
I mean, did St. George's Day happen early this year? I'm not really sure what's happened in the last few minutes from Ucal. Serious overestimation of what he can do with the space he's been given. He's playing around in 1v2s, 2v2s, doesn't respect the teleport coming through, and ZDZ luckily gets to make something of it. And now suddenly the last play AL could capitalize on with 2 players dead now from TT. Can they get more?
Well, without a Dragon, without Hoya for 20 seconds, absolutely. Remember, no TP from Ucal if he wants to join, but Baron won't be there by that time as well. At 6k, 5k, it's going down fast. Charm not connecting on Huanfeng. There he is, but it doesn't matter. He's still going to make an actual flight all the way here as Beichuan's targeted out. As Betty is just channeling on in. Inside that Crescent Guard, he stays alive for now. The Counter-Strike Beichuan has nowhere to go but in. Betty now taking on the fight to charm him out. Look, he runs away, Betty! Why did you go so far? DDZ's golden and another one bites the dust. But we ain't talking about Queen as Betty runs for his life. There's an explosive cast. Hoya doesn't care because look, the rest of the team are all in. The Sky's Descent or at least a Falling Star tributes down against CT with a great charm. A Cyclone against Xiaohao. He's trying to carry alongside PinZ. What a messy fight as Hoya now back on top of SwordArt. Golden big fat belly is now to Betty to flash away. The execute not coming through at the tip of the singularity. Betty's going to get out with the Baron buff, and TT just makes sure that that fight was messier than a family box at McDonald's.
It's like just both these teams slamming down an Uno reverse card. Like, now we have this person turning up the fight. Now Ucal has respawned. What about this turnaround in the jungle? And now there's a huge amount of gold been thrown over side to side. And messy games like this work out very differently when you have the Astral Flight resetting, when you have PinZ getting that ultimate resetting as well. SwordArt, big CC in that heat at the moment too. Huanfeng got a lot of shack from stacking, so I was a little bit worried midway through that fight. But there's no real kind of platform for these less mobile champions to keep up with the really huge engagements after this point. As he's saying, you know, Spirit Rush comes back up midway through this fight, Charm lands, and PinZ has a lot of damage, gets resets on top, and coming out of this fight, the amount of gold now put onto Wukong and Ahri is going to accelerate their builds to a point which they've been looking for the whole game. There was even a Medjay's built up after that point, and you can see they're starting to use it in the bot side.
He's dead again. 22 kills, 30 minutes, and we are dancing. Now in face of a 15-second Dragon coming up. Anyone's Legend look and charge. Hoya's down for 45 seconds, Nymira.
That's 45 seconds. You still have a lot of power left from Anyone's Legend. You've used your mid-jungle ultimates, but the amount of damage they have, again, coming in from that last fight. What happened just before this was, the amount of gold given to these two has built up extra items. You're accelerating them further. This is the combo which AL need to use to combat Ucal and Hoya on the side lanes. They've been so annoying, but started to be exploited a little bit more. TT, you've got to start righting the ship, stabilizing things with your vision control, being able to buy space for your big damage. You have the damage to absolutely blow up in these fights. It's just got to be protected adequately.
I just love watching an Aurelion Sol throw up on the minion wave. Just picking up CS while Anyone's Legend, the bottom side with Baron, they're going to do quite a lot against his turret. So it is going to drop. Meanwhile, look towards mid. He's trying, at least forcing off ZDZ, while, again, he does the same thing on the wave, instant clearing it. We do have the Skies Descend, and onto ZDZ, is it going to be used? Counter-Strike is there, 3 Talon Strike, Ucal is flying, doesn't want to burn it for now. Grandmaster at arms, everything there to help with the execute, but rather Huanfeng to pick up the kill here. With Baron now expired, TT just getting some gold back.
Again, it's not really going to lead to much. Besides, TT can maybe get themselves some vision control off of this. That's going to be a big thing for them. When AL were getting these kind of odd picks but not leading into objectives, it meant less because they were behind kind of what they wanted to do in terms of their pick combo. And it meant that if they could kind of get control over the map, it would have been so huge for them to get one of those Barons. So TT, all they're doing at this point now is getting themselves that vision, very importantly so. Maybe that means the next time someone goes looking for that Dragon, they won't be able to find him quite so easily.
I was wondering while we were showing rune selection this late in the game, I believe Ucal has Gathering Storm. So we are at 32 minutes into the game. I would assume that was the reason why. I didn't get to see the graphic, but I assume that why else would we be talking about it on the Chinese side? But again, this is a 3.5 item Aurelion Sol, 32 minutes into the game. AP right now is getting close to the 400 mark, but it is going to get so much better. As we're already seeing, he's taking everything. Jungle camps, waves, like, he's 50 CS up. Ucal is just, okay, I need more mana, I got a blue buff. Now where am I going to fly?
Start to check in with ASOL Airways, flying at a height about approximately 6 feet.
Nymira, I've just got a WeChat message from someone, right? Actually clarifying, he doesn't have Gathering Storm, it's Aurelion, so he's got Scorch. So, thank our production team for that one. But that's just rough for ZDZ. Okay. It might not even matter here because Xiaohao has found the charm over with the Breath of Light. Look at the damage it does.
The first kill into the ZDZ in the bot side meant that the Jax wasn't around for TT to fight over Vision. They don't have Vision on that top side. ZDZ gets caught out, and Huanfeng, after the side,
he flashes in response. Sephiroth heals him up, but not in time. Cyclone's been used though, and here we go. The ulti comes through, but it doesn't really do anything. Hoya needs to get a good explosive cast here, and against the wall, Betty is going to be hit, but still Aurelion Sol doesn't need the ult to rely on. He is spitting wrath right now. There's a big shutdown, a big injection of gold again into Aurelion Sol.
They just can't control these carries. Huanfeng caught out is one thing, but if you don't kill the Aurelion Sol, don't care if he doesn't have the... Oh, Pingzi's caught.
Is he going to die, though? There's the ulti. Damage denied. Audacious charge slowed down. Xiaohao tries, but they're already out of there. And now Baron is coming up in 25 seconds. Feels like this should just be a free with TT. Oh, me. Don't know what I'm saying because you got 20 seconds to enemy junglers up. It does feel free.
It's so nice you had to say it twice. Which can't be said for AL's last few minutes of this game because they've been kind of picked off pretty surgically by TT. ZDZ caught up in that top side, and then couldn't really hold the rest of the map despite trying to find their own response onto Huanfeng in the mid lane. Because of the Leandries, because of the huge consistent damage from Aurelion Sol, this Baron is going to absolutely be blown into the wind, turned to dust.
He does it so quick.
He does it so quick. I even wonder if he's quicker than Cassiopeia at this point, which is an insane thing to think, because for so long, there used to be this point in time where it's like, if you were ever against a Karthus or a Cassiopeia, you just had to have eyes on Baron all the time. I think that Aurelion Sol might even be quicker than at this point, because the percent HP on the Q procs and the Voice of Light, building a Leandries as well in this game obviously helps up with that. AL, there is just no way they can contest on objectives if they're not ready to contest it as TT turns up. They have a little bit of bot side vision right now, but they're not going to be able to fight around it. That's very sad for them. You have a little bit of damage course built up between Betty.
He just steals
so
everything. Ucal, he just puts
but it
down
gives him his
easy.
ultimate. At this point, you actually have to, because what you're looking to do is give him as many... If the singularity is down and something dies within the singularity, it gives him stacks, which then get him up to the next point where he unlocks that big Sky's Descent. You want that for all the big fights. And as you can see, he doesn't have that right now. So that does give AL one less thing to worry about.
Every tick of a champion in it as well, right? So Xiaohao giving a couple over to Ucal just then as well. He's got 452.
It's like 2/3 of the way there.
Of that magical space dust. So right now, Ucal getting close. As you said, the engagement's going to start off, so Pinzeed running away. Beichuan maybe overstepping. Meanwhile, Ucal is threatened on the back line. Xiaohao's tried, but he can't get the damage off because anyone's legend aren't there. Beichuan with the oldest. SwordArt gets hold in the back end, but Yao great quickness. He gets them all away while the double goes over to Huanfeng. 5,500 damage. Chimera. It's Aphelios time. DDC running in for the counter-strike. The last hurrah, but it cleansed the way with the crescendum out and ready. The Voice of Light turning into an absolute sky descending. A golden dragon. And with 10k damage between these two carries, TT are rolling into their first ever playoffs in style.
They are, and if they walk 2-0, they get themselves the best possible result they could have hoped from for today. Gets them up into that matchup with RNG in the first round. That's what it would set up for. They would have side choice with it as well, avoiding top esports in that first round, importantly for them. It's not going to be the end of the game so far, but it feels like it is just about as good as that. They're going to skip themselves to Sol, more gold, another one fight. AL, they're rushing towards the dragon, but I don't think they can contest.
TT's going to come through though. They're thinking, well, we may as well try that Pinzeed on the Ahri Spirit Rush, but no denial of the Chemtech Sol. AL is still here to try and find some charge, but TT aren't going to let him with the Baron Enhanced recalls with Chemtech Sol. A 2-0 looking more than likely now with a big gold lead, and honestly, this infinite scalar. Just doing so much damage.
It's like each of these jungle camps is just like a little like takeaway. It's like I now need like a delivery driver. You know we have Birdio, like the delivery driver Birdio on the pizza delivery server. Can we have the person who is then just going through the takeout of Aurelion Sol? It's like I'll have a 2, 3, the blue buff, and it's just rattling off everything as he just kills these jungle camps.
He's just so well off. I mean, he's full build as well.
I wish I knew the whole thing. You know the GTA kind of meme about that, like I'm a number 42, another big 52 with fries or whatever. I don't know that any of that. I just know it's a thing, and I know that I can't recite it. I will have to
that's
now
okay.
research
You're gonna have to
this.
research it for next time.
Very
you are. Ucal and a brush spotted out. I'm waiting to see how AL deal with this right now, because Ucal, as he once again brings in the sky, SwordArt only hit on the edge of the rim. There's nothing more to be said about that. Ucal's ulti, not the greatest, but still, anyone's legend feeling the sting is Hoya. His angle is huge. There's Aphelios, Moonlight Vigil as Yao wants to go on in. Again, that's huge as Beichuan now wants to finish off the duty, but TT forced AL off of the back of that turret. Meanwhile, ZDZ's trying to get what he can, but still doesn't have the confidence to stick around with TT now backing off.
Yeah, Hoya was coming back anyway, and if Aurelion Sol completes his back, of course, his W getting very high rank at this point. It's a very long distance, and that means he can chase you down over terrain with a decent amount of speed. So ZDZ to be very aware of what Aurelion Sol can mean towards the split push. It's not really been about Aurelion Sol affecting his own team's side lanes, roaming across the map. It's actually been about collapsing on him. As we say that, he's currently caught alone on this top side of the map. He is not seen.
SwordArt. Okay.
Enough threat with the stun to just say maybe not with the the 4 items area across the rift.
He has actually still evaded vision. I love that he went from one brush to another with the Astral Fly. Still hasn't been spotted out, but we'll wait for the waving spirit regardless. Yeah.
It's just this thing that's well, Ucal, for once in this game, managing to safely side lane. in a point where he has died a couple of times in mid-game, which made things a little questionable. Yeah, this game felt a little closer from AL. Beichuan's not going to be caught out.
Yeah, he's walking into blind fucking wall. Huanfeng by himself, but he's not scared of Xiaohao. Instead, this Wukong is denied. Hoya comes in, beautiful flash, but the explosive cast will send Betty to his safety instead. However, AL without a jungler for 55 seconds, and big bad Dragon Mother is rolling up the mid lane to try and make this 5v4 an ending gameplay.
That's what they're looking for. See if there is one last hurrah from anyone's legend in this game, in this split for them before they head out of the regular season. They bow out. Z walking forwards has a death cap now.
I was going to wait and see if Ucal would actually sell his boots and go for a death cap himself. I mean, he is at that point. He got so much gold.
He's on his morale for a void staff, importantly.
He did. Well, respect at least somewhat there at this point in the game, because either one, right? As TT,
it's one of the items.
Baron is now spawning. Oh my god! Oh my god! Look at him on the drive-by. Ready, Ucal again. Q is dead. What is that? ZDZ tried to jump in, and he might just die for his sin here, as waiting with a breath of light is once again Ucal. Look at TT on the charge now with Baron. Mid lane part 2, here it comes. Oh,
here comes Aurelion.
He stops it. Okay, fair enough.
You see that little orb on the floor, and just like, oh no. Oh no, that's the landing strip. That's where we're going for with the runway coming down. And now
it's got no cooldown. It's got no cooldown, and once again with the ulti coming through, the falling star does nothing but explosive cast. Sends Betty into this big bad dragon. Huanfeng picking up the kill credit yet again as TT, for the first time ever in this organization's history, would not only make playoffs, but make a date with destiny against Royal Never Give Up in the first round of LPL 2023 Spring playoffs coming up.
And with that, we'll finally say goodbye to anyone's legend. This was their last series of the split. We knew they were not going to be in playoffs either way, but still, a loss like that, it really did kind of highlight a lot of what we sadly seen from them in this split. Just not quite precise enough, not quite snowballing enough. And TT, they're a team which does have a lot of playmaker opportunities. We saw that a lot from particularly Xiaohao in game 1 on the Rakan, and sadly not from the other flanking champions like Hoya on the cannon. But still, when someone has an off game, you do have